on NJ Mom. Welcome. Happy to have you. I'm going to give everybody a chance to come on in and get settled and get ready for a great chat tonight. A very important topic. I feel like I say that every week, but I do think that every week there is something important to tackle with what's going on right now related to mom life. And so always happy to see our familiar faces joining us week after week to talk about all of this together, get some expert insight, and really just have a place to vent and feel like we're not alone in everything we're dealing with right now as moms. So hi if you're coming on in. I'm seeing some people come into the chat right now. Just like to give everybody a chance to get on in. And before I really jump into things, we have a couple things we like to do week after week. So I'll get those out of the way while I wait for everybody to come on in. First thing is that I love to hear from you guys about who you are, how old your kids are, where you're from, and how long you've been following NJ Mom, or if you're a new follower, how you heard about us. Please let us know. Drop that in the comments. Always like to see who we have with us and your family makeup, your family dynamic, how old your kids are, and different things you're dealing with in your household. So please share a little of that with us as we get started and get into things. And for those who may not know me, if you're just coming in, my name is Marissa. I host our NJ Mom TV. This is our chance weekly to connect with moms all across the state and just really have a support system for one another and get some really insightful tips and strategies to help us all in our mom journey. So hi, how are you? Oh, much needed. I'm so glad to hear that. Yes, much needed for so many of us right now, this topic. So a couple things that we do at the start of every chat, in addition to just you guys telling me a little bit about you, a little bit about me. I have 3 kids under 5 who are upstairs sleeping, fingers crossed. I haven't heard a peep in a while, so I think we're good for tonight. And I love to host these videos. We get such a great response from all of you, and I always love to see our familiar faces along with our newcomers each week. So, oh, mom of a 4-year-old and surfing through each day. I am with you there. Today was like a good day in this household, at least, but you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So we take them as they come, right? I am right there with you, and my son is 4.5, so I know that age also. Okay, a couple other things that we do week to week if you are new. I always like to give a shout out to our essential workers. We've been doing these live chats from really back in the spring, and we always just like to give a moment of appreciation and thanks to all of our frontline workers, particularly our healthcare workers, who once again are finding themselves in really stressful, draining, difficult scenarios day in and day out. Really have been this whole time, but now with this spike, just been really difficult the last few weeks, I know, for many. So we're thinking of you. We appreciate you, and thank you so much. We also love to just tell you about some new articles up on njmom.com this week. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, we will drop the links in the comments for you. So anything you hear about that sounds good that you want to check out, we'll drop the links here for you so you can find them easily. Our NJ Mompreneur of the Week. This is a weekly series we do. So if you are a new follower or new to NJ Mom, new to this chat, maybe you've never seen it before, but it's awesome. And this week we have Catherine Linus and Helen Holtz of the Matinee Club. And I thought this was such a cool concept. Essentially what it is it's a monthly movie club for moms specifically. And the movies are shown late morning, like when the kids are in school. So it's a little chance to sort of disconnect from the outside world, put away the busyness, and just go watch a movie with some fellow moms. I mean, that sounds amazing to me. Just a nice little chance to decompress. Such a great idea and really interesting to read and learn about how they've grown. So check that out if you haven't. I thought it was just really cool. And then this is another favorite. I always tell you about this in the chat because this is always something that you guys love. We always hear from moms who do some of these activities and visit some of these places and love them. So it's kid-friendly things to do each week. This week it's 7 kid-friendly things to do this week, and there are some really cool ones. As I know, many of us are looking to do some outdoor holiday related things that are safe and social distant acceptable. Some cool things going on at Liberty Science Center. They have a sock skating rink. How cool. An ice rink that's actually made of synthetic ice. They have a snowflake maze, and there's actually an exhibit teaching about the science of snowflakes. So that's all happening there. And also, this is just one that's so close to my heart. So if you've ever seen the production of Scrooge at Spring Lake Theater in Spring Lake, you may have seen me in it because I performed in it many years. Well, it was many years ago, but it is such an amazing production. So much heart goes into it, so much practice. It's really like family at Spring Lake Theater, and the whole community really rallies around their entire theater company and all of the productions they do. But Scrooge is definitely a fan favorite and a tradition year to year. This year, they are doing it all outdoors, which is awesome. We've seen some of these outdoor productions popping up, but this one I know is just so popular with families, and it's just such a great family tradition. So definitely give that a check if you haven't looked at that. Another thing that has been a really popular question, and it sort of ties into what we're going to be talking about tonight. We have an article up on the site, Where to See Santa in New Jersey in the year 2020. So if you're looking for a Santa visit that is contactless, mask wearing, there are ones with plexiglass windows. I mean, we rounded them up. Santa is still Santa, and the kids will be excited nonetheless. So give that a look. I know I'm going to be checking that out a little more closely to figure out what we're gonna do. So those are our big articles this week that I definitely think you guys should give a look to. As always, we'd love to see you tagging us in all of your pictures. There have been some awesome holiday pictures coming in, all the tree decorating going on, all of that. So thank you for hashtagging NJMom and tagging us at NJMom, both on Facebook and on Instagram. We'd love to see it. And we actually choose 5 new cover photos of the week for Facebook every week to feature all of your great pics. So all you have to do is actually comment a photo on the post that says cover photo of the week on Facebook, and maybe we'll choose yours this week. And if you tag us, we do so many fun roundups on the site, and we feature your pictures on social media and all of that. So please keep them coming. We'd love to see them, and we love to feature you. Okay, let me see. Did I miss anything here? Oh, love your earrings. Thank you. I think it's Rug Hobby. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, awesome. So before we get started into our chat here, our guest rather, if you're just coming in, I've seen some people just coming in now. If you're just coming in, hi, welcome. Happy to have you here. Such a great topic tonight, and I'm really excited to bring in our guest, Maria, in just a few minutes. But while I'm just checking some of your comments and things, please come on in and say hello. Let us know in the comments where you're from, how old your kids are, how your week's going, how you're faring this week, Mama, and just a little bit about you if you're new to NJ Mom or if you are one of our regulars. I saw Nicole, speaking of one of our regulars, up there as well too. Hi, Nicole. How are you? Always love seeing you guys joining us and engaging and talking about all of the topics week after week. I think if you're like me, I've heard from a lot of you that you look forward to this night, and so we appreciate that very much. Appreciate you being with us. So get your questions ready for our guest. I'm going to bring her in now. Maria Sanders is a licensed social worker and parent coach, a certified parent coach. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her and her business in just a minute and what she does. But obviously our topic tonight, you saw it pop up on your screen. It is managing holiday expectations during COVID and surrounding COVID. So I know for so many families, we just are coming off Thanksgiving here, and we're finding ourselves making some very unique decisions that we've never made before, difficult discussions that we've never had to have. So all very important. I'm going to bring Maria in now. Get your questions ready for her as I click her in. Oh, good question in the comments here. Should we do an NJ Mom giveaway for our mug, an NJ Mom mug giveaway. You guys love the NJ Mom mug. We always get so many comments about it. I think that's a fantastic idea personally. I mean, it will get us all in the holiday spirit, but you guys let us know. Let us know in the comments. I'm going to pop Maria in now. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I love the mug.
Everybody loves the mug. It's right behind me here. I don't know if you can see it in the shot right now, but I'm
Yep,
just gonna.
I saw it before.
Here we go. Yeah. So yes, the mug is a big hit. So hopefully, one lucky mama tonight will walk away with one of those, and we'll be seeing them hashtagged on Instagram. It's just so perfect for like the weekdays, and you're like, yeah, a fun mug makes everything better, in my opinion.
We all need one.
Yeah, exactly. So hello, welcome. Tell everybody a little bit first about you and what you do and how you help moms like us.
Sure. First, thank you for having me. This is so much fun, and it is so nice because my kids aren't necessarily asleep yet, but it's nice that I'm not on bedtime duty. So I have two kids. They are 7 and 9 years old, so they're in 2nd and 4th grade. And I have a private practice in Montclair where in regular times, I see parents one-on-one in person. I've always offered virtual coaching, which is really nice. And so now I see all my clients on Zoom or over the phone, which is great. I'm a parent coach. So what I do is I help parents who are experiencing some sort of challenge with their kid. And it could be a range from like potty training and sleep time stuff for little kids to teenage angst in our tweens and teens. So, you know, it kind of runs the spectrum of parenting. And my work is supported by two things, which you'll probably hear me talk about a lot tonight: conscious parenting and collaborative problem solving. And so I use both of those things in how I work with parents. That being said, we talk about whatever you want. So the work I do with parents really has to do with what the parents want, or the parent wants, or the caregiver, and we're going to get there. We're going to figure out what are your goals, and we're going to work together to start taking steps to get closer to those goals.
This is just a personal curiosity question. What made you want to do this with parents and with moms?
Yeah, so I was a school social worker for about 15 years. I also did early intervention. I'm certified as a teacher also. So for early intervention, I did teaching and social work. And I took a few years off when I had my kiddos. And then I wanted to go back to work. And I was just trying to figure out, you know, where can I apply what I know and use what I know, and, you know, what are the missing pieces? And I did a lot of work with parents as a school social worker. And yes, I worked with kids, but I also worked with parents. And parents often came in to my office because there was some crisis. I was on the child study team. So oftentimes I was working with children and parents of kids with special needs. And parents often just came in lost, saying like, I don't know what to do. And we're not expected to know what to do. And that's what the shame is that like, even me, I was an educator for 15 years. And then I had my kids. And then I was in the bathroom on the phone with my husband crying, saying, I need help. And so it doesn't matter what your experience is with kids. I know there's parents who never change a diaper until they had children. To someone like me, it still is difficult. And so I realize that's where I want to be. That's how I want to use my work. And it's been really wonderful. And I also go back. So I work with parents in that way. I do the one-on-one parent coaching. I do parent workshops. And I also go back into schools, since that was my specialty for a long time. And I work with teachers. So
that's amazing. And I love that you said that. There is no manual for this. And I have to remind myself that daily. You know, I rely a lot on, you know, my own experience with children, and I babysat for many years, my, you know, how we're parented by our parent, you know, there's all these things you draw from, but still you can have 15 years experience. It's so good to hear you say that. I think so validating for moms. Someone who works with kids every day, and it's still so much different when it's your own family, and you're so much more intimately connected, and you love these little beings with every piece of you and yet it's still really, really tough. So thank you for setting that tone, because I think that that's really important for moms to remember right now, especially. There's so much uncharted territory happening, flying at us on a daily basis. We're used to COVID by now in some ways, but yet every sort of chapter of it, presents something new. And so let's get into the holidays. What are you hearing, I guess, overall from parents you work with, and just sort of like in your own world, about what people are struggling with related to the holidays?
So a lot of what I'm hearing about is, it sounds strange, but loss and grief. And we have to accept
Yeah.
that that is what we're experiencing, and that's okay. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's been many of us who may have lost someone to COVID. There are many of us who have also just lost parts of our lives. So our freedoms, our ability to do things as a family outside of the home, our loss of seeing family members, which is coming up, just came up for Thanksgiving and is now coming up for the several holidays that we have this winter. And there's a real loss there. Holidays come oftentimes with tradition.
Mhm.
And when we don't have access to that, we feel really unsettled. And that's unnerving. It's, what are we supposed to do? I've never had Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, another holiday without doing X, Y, and Z, right?
Mhm.
And so we need to recognize that we are experiencing that kind of loss. And there are phases that we're going to go through, just like the phases of grief, with related to death and dying. And so there is that real sadness and depression and anger and trying to figure out, bargaining, how are we going to work through this? Or maybe if I do this, we can make this happen. And
Yeah.
just trying to, like you said, navigate this new territory.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's so true. Linda says you're so right. So many of us have, like that meme and that quote that keeps coming up is that, we're all in the same storm, but we are all in a different boat.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think it's so true, is that everyone has something that has changed dramatically in their life, like no question. And now it's like another sort of chapter of that as we look toward a time of year that is so special, and so special, but also can bring up a lot for people too. So there's,
Just
family
gonna say,
dynamics and things like that at play for certain people that are definitely something we should, mention also. So yeah, all of that is a good point. I want to mention, so we do, for all of our moms watching, if you've seen it on our site, we do a poll each week related to the topic we're going to talk about for this chat, and kind of ask you all what you're struggling with or what you're experiencing related to this. And so we heard really like three main things, I would say. One is sort of that feeling, struggling with the feeling of missing out on tradition. Things that we always do, we're not going to do anymore. How am I going to deal with that? How do I explain that to my children? Things like that. So maybe let's start there, because that's kind of what you were just speaking about a little bit. What's your advice for moms, number one, on how to handle that within ourselves, us and our spouses, but then also, how do we handle that with our kids? Because I think it's two different tactics and maybe a little intertwined. You tell me.
yeah. Well, I love that you first said, how do we deal with it with ourselves first?
Yeah.
And then how do we deal with it with our kids? And right there, that's pretty much your answer, is that we do have to deal with it first. And so, we've had to tell our kids, me personally, and I know all of us, oh, this isn't happening this time. I'm sorry, this is getting canceled. I'm sorry, that's happening or not happening. And so before we share that news with our kids, we need to sit with that and address all the feelings that are coming up because of that. While it's important to be honest and share with our kids, depending on how old they are, we want to first settle those feelings a bit, not mask them, but just recognize, yeah, I'm really sad For example, I know this isn't related necessarily to the holidays, but this summer when I had to tell my kids they weren't going to go to sleepaway camp, I was very close to tears. And I didn't want to show up to them with that kind of face. I wanted to show sadness for sure, but manage it and also show strength and confidence and be able to have a place for them to share their emotion. I don't want my emotion to be onto them. I want them to say, all right, mama's okay, and she can handle it if I get upset, if I cry, if I scream. I want them to know I've got your back. And so the way we do that is by first taking care of ourselves, thinking about what is it that I need to make sure I do before I share this information with my kids. Do I need to call my girlfriend? Do I need to sit down with my parenting partner? Do I need to call my mom? Do I need to read a quick blog post about how other people handle this situation? Whatever it is, reaching out to my parent coach, whatever it is, finding all the resources that you have access to so that you can work through the sadness, the loss, the grief, the confusion, and then move forward to a place of confidence.
That's a fantastic tip. I struggle with that in my parenting, just off the cuff, like in my react. Sometimes I react too quickly without giving myself a beat, just with like the chaos of life. I mean, I don't mean so much in the big things, but in the little things, I struggle with that when I get overwhelmed or frustrated or things, you know. So I think that for something this big, as we've had all these big things, we've had to tell our kids, oh, no, sorry, that isn't going on. I think that that's so valuable to really do, is to center ourselves first. And maybe it's a day or two. I mean, my kids are a little younger, so I can get away with that. I know with the older kids, it's not so easy. But, you know, you wait a little bit before you kind of break news, because it gives you a little time to soften the blow for yourself. Yeah, I think that that's such a great point.
And talking also with a friend, a parent coach, a partner gives you an opportunity to sort of role play it. Because sometimes we get stuck and we're like, how do I explain this? How do I say this? And when we have an opportunity to take that pause, within that pause, we have an opportunity to say, okay, what does this sound like? Let's role play this and see, you know, what do you think little Susie's going to say after I tell her blank? And so that role play really is helpful, because we get stuck on our words sometimes. And again, we want to come from a place of confidence.
Yeah. So Linda mentioned that, you know, it's hard, children not being with their friends. They don't understand. My adopted daughter goes to gymnastics. It was hard to tell her they are closed. I do a lot of thinking on helping to guide her through this. That I think we're all in that boat, Linda. I know from a mom perspective, I mean, you just said it, Maria, with the sleepaway camp for me, and, you know, it's all of these, even just like the Santa thing, like my kids are little and they don't really get it. I mean, they understand what's going on with the virus on a surface level, but I think about it every day, as I'm sure we all do. There's something else to think about related to it.
That's a good point that you make, that they're little and they don't get it. And you know, we do need to understand developmentally where our kids are, but some of our feelings come from our experience. We know what this coronavirus means and the impact it has and the ripple effect it has on other situations and other people. Depending on the age of our kids, they don't always know that. I don't know if my kids have fully conceptualized that they've been home since March. I'm looking at all the loss and all the time. They're very much present moment thinkers at this age. Maybe my 9-year-old a little bit more can understand the time frame, but my 7-year-old, not so much. And definitely 5 and under, definitely not. So just keeping in mind that some of our feelings are based on our experience. They have a 3-year-old experience or a 4-year-old experience. So they're not going to have the same feelings. And so a lot of times we project what we think they're going to feel, but that's really based on our experience, not on what they're really going to feel.
Oh, that's a good point. Really good point. And we don't want to do that, especially if they're not feeling necessarily as bad as we're feeling. We don't want to make it worse. No pressure,
You must be super sad. No, I'm not super sad. I'm fine. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my 7-year-old told me that.
Wow.
I was like, I know this is difficult. This might be difficult for you to understand. She's like, it's not difficult. I get it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, I stand corrected then.
Right.
Okay, well, that's good. All right. So that was the one thing that, was sort of brought up. The second thing, which, I'm sure you deal a lot with in general, is managing family and extended family dynamics and expectations and, navigating situations where maybe family members don't feel the same as you do, related to, are we getting together? Who's going to be there? How are we going to handle it? I know so many people, I spoke with this in some way for Thanksgiving. So what's your take on that sort of overall right now?
Oh, this is so difficult. This is not an easy conversation. It's not an easy place to be. When it comes to making decisions, again, we really need to take some pauses and not react so quickly. We need to check in with what is most important to us. What about getting together is important? What about seeing this person is important, or doing this tradition is important? Because we want to make sure that we're not, a couple things. We want to make sure that we're not saying yes to something that we really want to say no to. Because we want to be in alignment. So that if we say yes, it's because we want it and it feels really good. If we say yes to something that we really feel like we should be saying no to, there's going to be friction there. And that's where problems arise. So it might not be easy to stick to what you feel like are your family values and your family boundaries. It will be difficult. It will be a lot easier if you are acting and responding in a way that's much more in alignment, if that makes sense. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, kind of related, is just being clear. And so getting clear as to, like what I was saying before, about what's important to me. So if seeing my family is important and making sure my kids have time with the grandparents is important, how else can I meet that need in a way that's safe? So let's get creative. So for Thanksgiving, my dad said, well, I'm usually with you all day for Thanksgiving. And so he was like, can we turn Zoom on from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.? I'm like, yeah, what? So we can watch you sleep on the couch? And guess what? He was snoring on Zoom. And it was great. It was so much fun because we did. We left the Zoom open for family to hop in and out all day long as we passed the kitchen, as we sat down, as we did this. And it felt good because I did feel that connection. I was able to just casually hop on, chat with my dad, chat with my cousin, chat with my aunt. We were all over the country. So thinking about what is the most important piece and how can we meet that need?
I think that's great.
To our family.
Yeah. I think that first of all, that's a great idea. I hadn't heard of anyone, no one else had mentioned that. So that's really cool. But I think what you say is a struggle for a lot of newer parents. I'm sure, I'm just saying that because I'm a newer parent, I guess, but I'm sure that this exists as you grow in your parenting journey in various aspects. But I know that as a mom who I still feel like a relatively new mom, my son's not even 5, it's been an unexpected part of parenting that has been challenging, is figuring out, okay, what are my boundaries in general? What am I comfortable with, and how do I express that in a way that, in a way that I'm comfortable with? It's like, it's deciding what the boundary is and then figuring out, how do I express that boundary in a way that feels true to my decision, but also true to myself? I love my family. I don't want to upset anybody. So, there's so many things that go into that. And now with COVID, it's like way more layered because there's just a lot more going on. So I think that that's really important. I liked the friction. That was very visual for me.
Great. The other thing I just wanted to tack on to that is you don't have to make this decision in isolation. hopefully you and your partner are on the same page, or at least get to being on the same page, which that in itself, I have heard so many people having challenges. That being said, let's use even our kids as our partners, right? We don't have to make all the decisions all by ourselves. We may or may not ask our 4-year-old, so what do we want to do with Grammy and Grandpa on Zoom? How do you want to interact with them? That way, it's not on you to decide how they're going to spend their day. Like, oh, I need to come up with something awesome. Why don't we just ask our 4-year-old or our 8-year-old or even our 12-year-old, how do you want to spend it? What are some ideas that you have? And that way, we're not taking all of it, because we're already taking a lot on as parents, as the backbone of the family. And so let's share some of that pass that on to our kids. And that way it's not on us. And they're going to be more motivated and invested in whatever activity it is, if they are part of that planning.
Absolutely. And that's like something I think that's so valuable in parenting, is just the whole, giving a child power over things that are reasonable for them to have power. But it goes such a long way, so I love that idea. Just a couple comments.
No, that's actually at a time where I feel like our kids don't have a whole lot of voice in what's going on, because school's closed, campus closed, gymnastics, like this woman said, is closed. Everything is closed. You don't have a choice. We just can't, right? And so when we can give our kids an opportunity to share their voice and their ideas, how empowering is that for a child of any age? And I had mentioned I do a lot of work in something called collaborative problem solving. It is what you think it is, working collaboratively to problem solve with your child or your children. So we've got a situation here. What do we want to do? How do we make sure we all get our needs met?
I love that. I want to get to a couple of these comments here. Red Hobby says, my 4-year-old tells me she is the superhero, or tells me the superhero is going to fight this virus and throw it far away, and she can have all her play dates back. Oh, and she wants to see her teachers in real life. Yeah, they are, my son too, he's coming up with sort of his own version of kind of what this is and how, so it's such a big awesome.
This is how they process it. Mm-hmm. This is how kids process all these confusing things. So we do want to kind of hear what their play is all about. And if there's anything that sounds concerning, we want to clarify those errors. So yeah, she wants to be a superhero and fight this virus. That sounds awesome. If she's playing and saying something like, oh, and everyone's going to die, and I hate to say that, but it happens, right? We want to bring some clarification to that. Right. Because we don't want our kids to create a storyline that is really untrue. If it helps them process that, that's great. And so we can do this through storytelling. Our kids can do it through drawing. And the more they can talk about it, the thing is, we, even adults and kids, we keep things bottled in and we don't let it out. And then what happens? It's in, but we have all these feelings underneath, and then they come out in other ways, in a temper tantrum, in slamming doors, in yelling at us, in doing, whatever it is that's challenging, because they haven't had an opportunity to let it out in a safe and healthy way. So again, we want our kids to know, I'm here for you. I'm listening. Talk to me. Tell me. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to help you bring out all those feelings so that you can feel that release and you can take a deep breath and you don't have to hold it all inside.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's important to kind of see how they process it and really, let them process it through things like that. So I love that. Jess with Season School said, great point, ask the kids. She loved that idea. So yeah, and she's an educator as well. So she's on the same page with that, I know, in many ways. Kate wants to know, how do you suggest to start a conversation with grandparents on how to visit safely? We have been much more cautious socially, and they seem to only want to visit in the traditional way and don't seem to want to think outside the box, outdoors, etc. So any tips there on how to get that going?
I think sharing examples of other ways that your COVID behavior has worked for you. So this, saying mom, dad, or to your in-laws or whatever, this is what has worked for us in the past, and this is why. And also letting them know that this is a way to keep them safe as well. And I know it's crazy. What I'm hearing all over the place is that our parents are the toughest ones. And I don't know where that comes from or why that exists that way. But yeah, our parents are having a tough time kind of following the guidelines that we're trying to keep you safe. But just, again, making sure that you feel like what you're doing is in line with your boundaries. As difficult as those conversations are going to be, you're going to feel better in the long run having followed through with what is in line with your values and your boundaries. So again, I think letting your parents know, this is what has worked for us when we've wanted to see people outside, or these are the things that, and I actually have a document with my sister and her husband and their daughter for Christmas so they can come over, of a bunch of behaviors. And we're all, yes, this is what I do, this is what I don't do. And that way we have actual talking points that we can visually see that we can work through. And that way we can get on the same page. So I do think having something written, I know it sounds kind of like contract-like or business-like and not as like warm and fuzzy. We're trying to take care of our health. We're trying to take care of the health of our parents, and at the same time trying to enjoy this time. So we don't want to get too, sticky, but we have to do what feels good to us so that we can move forward. So a document like that might be helpful, because that way your parents can look at it, not in the middle of a conversation, review it, see what they think, and see if you can come to a place of agreement.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you mean. So like ideas on how you would gather. Yeah. And Kate wants to know too, like, what are some examples? What do you have on that?
So personally, I've been, what I would say is on the one extreme of strictness, and there's no judgment on people who are on the other end. There, you really have to do what is right for you and what your family needs. And so we have things like, are you going to outdoor restaurants? Are you doing curbside or delivery for groceries? Or are you going into supermarkets? During this 2-week period, or do you have any doctor's appointments, a dentist appointment, things like that? What else do we have on there? Or are we letting anyone inside our home? That includes friends, family, or workers. If I had a leak in my roof, I would have to communicate that to my family and say, this was an emergency situation. We had to let people in, the roof is going to fall in, or you know what, it's not an emergency and I can wait to address that until after the holiday and after we're together. What are some of the other things we have on there? Just kind of like outdoor play dates, which I do think, I don't want to get into all the science behind COVID, but we're comfortable outdoors with masks on. Just want to make sure we're, kind of want to understand where you are, my family with that, and just getting to understand where we are, because a lot of times someone will say, oh yeah, I do all of these things, and then we talk and it's not exactly, and we really have to make sure, not that we need to get on the same page, but we want to know where the other person is, and hopefully find a place of like agreement, not compromise, but real agreement, real collaboration.
Okay, Kate, so hopefully that answers your question. I want to get to Nicole's thoughts too, because her son is immunocompromised, and she was mentioning that she's going to do an outdoor social distancing brunch. Did I see a question here? Let's see. Thought I did. Where was it?
Her son is immunocompromised, so she wants him to see family even from afar, even if it's across the lawn, because he has heart surgery
coming up. That's what it was.
Thereafter.
So I don't know if, Nicole, if you're looking for ways to kind of communicate your expectations with that, but anything, I mean, obviously with a child who is immunocompromised, Nicole, and I should mention too, Nicole's one of our regulars. She and her husband are both frontline workers. So they have that also. they're both in healthcare. So there's a lot. So I know Nicole, I think she said that her family, they've sort of been dealing with this now for many months, but holidays bring something new. So maybe here's a question. If there's someone new coming into the mix for a holiday gathering, how do you maybe sort of initiate that conversation that you haven't necessarily had if it's someone who's out of town or you don't see as often or something?
So first to Nicole and your husband, thank you for your service. I'm really grateful. I think expectations, setting that up ahead of time. So we had family over not too long ago. It was my dad, his wife, and my sister. Maybe it was over the summer, but I let them know ahead of time. Just so you know, we've been really strict in not letting anyone into the house, and that includes the bathroom. And we actually have a setup that we can do a pop-up porta potty kind of thing. And so I let my dad and his wife know that's the expectation. So don't even ask me to come in the house. It's not happening. And I was a lot nicer about it than I'm saying now, but setting up those expectations. So here's how it's going to go. How long is it going to happen? What are we going to do if it rains? What can you do with regards to my son? It looks like his name is Liam. What can you not do? And just lay it out ahead of time. And that way everyone knows what's expected. And my guess is if this is family or close friends, they're going to be respectful. And if you do need to remind them, they have already been told, from the get-go, what is the expectation. And there's no need to apologize. This is, again, going back to your values and your boundaries and making sure you're in line with that. So when you go to bed at night, you feel good about it, even if it was difficult.
I want to talk about the kids piece of all this, because we were talking about some of the traditions like Santa and sleepaway camp and things like that, but the family aspect of it is another really challenging thing for kids, who really want to see all sorts of extended family who you typically may see at the holidays, cousins and friends and, all that. So any advice for talking with our kids about that piece, which is a little different than, you're not going to gymnastics,
Yeah. So I always start by saying things are going to look a little different this year. And
that's the theme of 2020.
My kids are old enough that they get, they understand that.
Right.
But the use of questions is really what I kind of want to bring home to you guys, is asking your kids questions. So what do you think about that? What do you feel about that? What do you think might come up? Just asking them so that you can get a barometer as to what their temperature is, right? So are they upset about this? Are they going to have questions? So we want to ask them questions instead of telling them so much, because again, we may share more than is really necessary. And this has to do with COVID or sex education or drugs or like any topic that's challenging. Sometimes we talk too much and we give so much information away. And so
you are preaching to the choir, because I could talk the leg off a chair, as my mom would say. So I'm glad you're saying that. It's important to really realize when you're dealing with little people thoughts and little people processing and all of that.
Right. So asking our kids questions. So what do you think? What do you think we might be able to do? Or what do you think is going to happen? How do you think you might feel? Or how do you feel not seeing grandpa or grandma this holiday? And so asking them questions really gives us the answer as to where to go next.
Okay, I think that's important. Oh, my mother-in-law commented, yes, I know. She said, as seniors, parents, and grandparents, we are comfortable with whatever works for our children and grandchildren. And yes, I mean, every family, like I feel lucky that, my family has been pretty, open with how are you feeling? How are you handling things? Like that's just been a conversation, but not every family is that way on many levels. And not every family feels the same way as each other. So there's just, every single family is different and has different circumstances, as we just talked about with Liam. There's like a whole host of things that makes this, I think, so hard to tackle on a variety of levels. Before we start to wrap up, I just want to make sure everyone knows to get in any questions for Maria. But I have one other main topic that I want to cover, and that is the economic side of this, because that was something that moms brought up in our poll. And that is something that so many families are facing with related to, with regard to COVID, is financial circumstances have changed. And, moms told us that they don't want to have, they don't want to disappoint their kids by scaling back or having to change things related to the type of holiday that they're having. So any advice on that front? I'm sure this is something you talk about with kids quite a bit, financial challenges. So what can you tell us about that?
So again, some of our feelings are based on our experiences and our thoughts. So we might think, oh gosh, I don't want to give my kids less gifts. And, they already had so much taken away from them. I feel so bad. I just want to give them more and I can't. Again, depending on their age, they're going to be okay. Many kids are resilient and will be okay. And, I feel like silly saying this, but it's not the quantity, it really is the quality.
Yeah.
And you have an opportunity to make this really unique and special. And as much as we would love to move past this and forget it, we're not going to forget it. And so
that's for sure.
This line from the show Hamilton, in one of the songs, it's called The Story of Tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm a big Hamilton fan. So what part?
I wish I could remember which song it is, but he said, it's that song, The Story of Tonight. And he says something like, whatever happens tonight, whatever we tell them, that's going to be the story they know. That's going to be the story for their future. So how do we want to frame this? Do we want to come, and I talk a lot about this in the work around conscious parenting, coming from a place of lack or coming from a place of abundance? And that perspective can shift. And that's something that we can start working on as we notice, oh, I'm not going to give my kids enough. How can I reframe that and say, I'm going to give my kids everything they need? And what do they need? And I've got all the things that they need. And we're going to have a beautiful holiday together. Or, oh, there's going to be nobody at the table and this is going to be so boring. Even if our kids verbalize that, because my 9-year-old may say something like that. A 12-year-old may say something like that, right? Because they're used to whatever. And so let's work on shifting that to a focus of abundance. And the more we focus on abundance, guess what? The more we see abundance. So we want to keep that in mind.
That's, I think, something that is such the use of gratitude for a perspective. That is such a mood shift for me. If I just really consciously take a minute when I'm having a crappy day to really just take a step back. And I think that that's been really hard to do in 2020 for all of us for a variety of reasons, as I keep saying. But I do think that that's a great way to sort of look at it. And I mean, I can think of things right off the bat as you're thinking about look at all this time that I've had with my child. I keep saying that to myself because it is time that we will never get back. Anyone, my mother, my mother-in-law, anyone older, who is years out from having little ones at home, you hear that all the time. And I think as moms, in the moment of the rush of everything, it's hard to see that sometimes, but as much as we can tell ourselves that, I think helps. And I love that abundance idea.
Sorry to interrupt, but time will pass. We want to remember this is a moment, and staying in that present moment of this is what it is right now. It's not going to be this forever. We are going to move forward. And so let's not focus on how difficult the past 8-9 months have been. Let's not think about how dreary the next whatever months are going to be. Let's just focus on this moment. I just need to get through today. And I'm going to work really hard shifting my mindset today. Maybe it's going to be really tough tomorrow. I'm just going to focus on this present moment. And staying in that present moment really helps us feel more in control. Because we could say, or even if it's not the day, I just want to get through this moment. Or this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, and chunk it and just say, I just need to shift my mindset for a short bit. It's hard, but it's a practice, right? And so what happens with practice? You get better over time and you get more familiar with it. And so the more you practice that, the more you visualize that kind of like what you're talking about, that gratitude, the easier it will be. And I'm not just saying that, it is true.
That's great. Yeah, Rick Hobby said that's one more big struggle this year, financial fight many of us are going through. I mean, I think so many people's economic situation has changed. Some people obviously more dramatically than others. So it is something to just know like you're not alone in that. I think that it's such a concern for so many people. Right? And so if you are dealing with that in some way, like, there are many, many people who are. So that's important. And Kate, yes, I am very lucky to have a family with open communication. I agree. I mean, I feel very blessed to have that. But I know many people have different circumstances that either that's just not the case, they don't feel comfortable. I mean, so that's why we're doing this, is that no matter what your family scenario is, we want you to walk away from this feeling, supported and empowered to sort of know that your choice for your family is just that. It's your choice. And, it's hard to kind of be confident in that sometimes. But Maria, I think you've done a great job sort of helping us through that and, offering that idea that setting a boundary is going to feel good eventually, even if in the moment it doesn't necessarily. Any like parting words of encouragement or last thoughts and things like that as we kind of get into the next few weeks?
Yeah, just go easy on yourself. We judge as moms or as parents. I think we judge ourselves a lot. We blame ourselves a lot. And that's not going to do anyone any good right now. We really need to take care of ourselves and be kind and compassionate to ourselves. So, we definitely want to offer compassion to our kids first and foremost. And that's how we started this talk tonight, that it does start with us. And so when we can, taking an opportunity to say, what do I need to get through these few weeks? Mm-hmm. So what are the things that help me stay calm, stay kind, stay compassionate, stay, level-headed? What are the things that I need? I need a good night's sleep. I need to disconnect from my phone. I need to not talk to that person, maybe. Whatever it is, make a list of the things that are helpful for you so that as you start to kind of like veer off, you can pull out that list and say, I'm going to get back on track. I love puzzles. I love listening to comedy. And so when I'm feeling a low, I sit at my table in here and I do my puzzles and I listen to comedy or fun music and I feel much better. And I can't forget that because I'm going to veer off. We all do sometimes. And so be gentle and say, oh, I see you, Maria, veering off. Come on back. Here's how I'm going to take care of you. And take care of yourself. Really do.
I love that. It's so funny you say that about listening because just today, I notice a huge difference. Like when I'm home with my kids all day and it's crazy. And, I'm like getting into a point where I'm like, I always put on music because that always helps me. Like we have like a little, Google home in the playroom and it's like amazing what that just small little thing like can really just turn things around for me personally. I mean, they're still probably bouncing off the walls, but that's okay. My mood is lightened and it's just a big shift. So thank you for saying that. I think that's an important reminder. Anything else you think you want to add for our mamas before we let you go? I want to be mindful of your time.
Just remember, we're dealing with a lot. We've got a lot on our plates, a lot of emotions, and our kids do too. And so parents are calling me all the time, scheduling sessions, because there are lots of challenging behaviors we're seeing from our kids. They're having a tough time expressing all the feelings that are going on. It's really hard to talk about feelings when you don't have the language. So giving, and I mentioned this before, giving our kids an opportunity to talk it out is so important. From little, 2 or 3 years old, start helping them with that language so that they can get it out. And letting them know you've got their back. That's what they need right now is, and this isn't meant to like put pressure on parents, but That is what we want to do. And what we need to do is say, I've got your back, I'm here for you. And yeah, this is tough for me too. And it's okay that you're sad or mad or whatever it is, but we're going to do this together. We're going to get through this together.
Thank you so much, Maria. This was wonderful. Really appreciate your insight into this and all of your thoughtful advice for all of our moms, who are embarking on yet another chapter of this wild ride that we call this year. So really appreciate you being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all the questions in the comments. It's helpful.
Yes,
I'm sure
absolutely.
we answered lots of questions.
Yeah. Some good questions too. So as always. All right. Thank you, Maria. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. All right, mamas. Hopefully you guys found that helpful and had a few minutes to just good. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Radhavi. Thank you for being here and for your questions and insight. And as always, we love to hear from you about what you want to talk about week after week. So if you have an idea for a topic or a guest that you'd like to see us feature, who you think would be helpful to our NJ Mom community, please let us know. You can write in the comments or drop us a line, a message, and let us know what you'd like to hear about. So have a great night. Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Tuesday. Bye.